All right, there we go. Okay, so thanks guys for jumping into this today. As I mentioned earlier, this is going to be a little bit different than a normal training because this workshop is so hands-on and so specific to the partners that it's really important that you have tons of communication going on, and every one of them is going to be different. So it doesn't really go by a PowerPoint, but there are some things that we're going to talk about. And I do have a PowerPoint pulled up that has some of the activity cards on it just to show you guys how to use that if you have any questions. Before we get started, if you guys just want to say who you are so that we know who you are, where you're from. I know you guys haven't really met each other. There's only two of you, but other people will be watching this, so it's always nice to know who you're talking to. So go ahead, Amy.
Amy Manson. I'm from just outside Boulder, Colorado, and I am a trainer and have been for, I think, almost 4 years now, and also do implementation in Colorado.
All right, cool.
Nice. Well, I'm Lauren Herring. I am actually a full-time PCA employee. I run all of our out-of-territory and emerging markets, basically where we're trying to put new chapters. And I'm also a trainer, at least working towards doing that a little bit more. But I'm in Dallas, so I kind of get the best of both worlds too, to help out our North Texas chapter.
Which is awesome. All right, and I'm Kelly, for people that have not met me, but I think everybody knows who I am. And I'm out of Philadelphia. So, this, let me just put this in perspective. This workshop has been one of my little baby projects for about 6 or 7 years now. I was coming off of being an elementary teacher for 9 years. And when I started with PCA, I was so fascinated by all this material. I was coaching high school at the time, and I thought this is all fantastic and great. But I was coaching high school and they were getting the concepts, but I had to reprogram a lot of the things that were already going on with them. And then during my day job, I was going to elementary school and seeing these little sponges that were just soaking up every single thing I said. So I reached out to Jim Thompson years ago and I said, why aren't we doing workshops for elementary kids? And he said, great, do it. Set it up, make it happen. So it's been a long time in the running, but I just really feel that this age group of kids, they are so open-minded to so many things, and they're learning stuff that is going to help them the rest of their life, as we all know. And there's no better time to introduce these principles than now. And that can really change their future in sports and athletics. And, you know, I hate to sound cliche, but in life, because they can learn these things at such a young age when they don't have any blockages in the way. They didn't put any up any walls yet. So they get to hear these things and it just becomes second nature to them. And all of us that probably have sports teams that we've introduced some of these principles when the kids were young, it just becomes vocabulary for them and things that they do automatically. So that's the idea for this workshop. The other idea is that we know that kids at a certain age do not have a very long attention span. I like to stick with the rule that their age in minutes is pretty much how much time you have for their attention span. So if this workshop is geared from 4-year-olds to middle school age, so we've kind of blocked it off at 13 or 13, let's say. That's the ideal audience for this. We do offer TIC workshops for middle school ages, which are in the classroom with a modified PowerPoint that we do more as a regular TIC workshop. This is not that. This workshop is on the field, on location, short mini workshops that involve a lot of activities. And I think you guys already know that. So that's why this one is a lot different. I've had a couple questions from partner managers saying, well, what if I have 50 middle school kids? Can we do a junior TIC? And what would your answer be to that?
You did rotate, my guess would be.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea of this is that it's small groups. And again, we've already gotten pushback saying, well, you know, what if I have like 30 kids and you just do it twice? And it's just, the point is that it's not going to be as effective. If you have 36-year-olds and you want to try to keep their attention for anything, especially on the sideline of a field or a track or a pool or a gym, it's going to be really hard to do. So that's one of the reasons that this workshop requires a little bit of extra effort on part of the trainer and the partner manager, and the communication has to happen sooner. So are there any other differences that you guys are aware of that would make this workshop different than others, either from a sales point of view or from a delivery point of view?
I haven't really talked too much about this one yet, so can't give you too much, but the main thing is just nice to really have that option, because I do get asked quite frequently about ages and like about how low we want to go. Mm-hmm. So that's obviously the sales perspective of just, it's very nice to have, and it's very much a need.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Amy, as a trainer, what would you say are the biggest differences in this one? In your preparation to train for it?
Preparation. Gosh, well, I mean, obviously we're just, I think just getting to know who the kids are, how many you're going to be working with, and go through all the activities and make sure you've got one that best fits that crowd.
Yeah. So if you're going to reach out, first thing is, if you have to reach out to a partner, we get the 3-day ahead of time partner call. That's too late, I think, for this workshop to reach out to the partner.
For the setup of where you're going to be, what the location is, you have a field, you have a gym.
Yep.
So yeah, I would say, the logistics of setup would be hugely important.
Right. And usually that happens when the partner manager or partner support manager is setting it up with the partner, but we really want to bring the trainer into this as well. We've kind of handpicked trainers that we wanted to do this because, number one, we feel like you're very organized and you're able to handle this type of responsibility. Number two, you seem to have an affinity for young kids, which is great. And I think some of those pieces are really important because if this is a last minute thing, it can be a huge mess.
Right.
But if it's done really well and organized really well, it just can go off great. So, and because it's new, we're learning in the process. So that's one of the things that is a challenge that we've learned anyway, just from a couple of them being scheduled. The what ifs, I know this is ideal, but what if we do this? And what if we try this? And what if we try this? And sometimes, there has to be pushback saying, we want this to be great for you.
Right.
So, this is ideal. Just to give you a sticker number in your head, I like to stick with 2020. Just keep remembering 2020. The ideal group is less than 20 for less than 20 minutes. And if you sort of stick with that idea, however they would like to do that over the course of a 2-hour chunk for a trainer, a workshop, that's up to them. So for example, if groups have 100 soccer players, let's just make it simple, 100 youth soccer players that they are trying to get through our junior TIC workshops. So if you were saying you want each little station to be less than 20 minutes, let's say 15-minute stations, how many could you fit in an hour, would you say? If they said, how many times can we rotate the groups through?
5 rotations in an hour for 20 minutes or.
What if it was actually 3, if it's 20 minutes? But what if, that's okay.
Math?
No worries. I don't need you to do math. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Let's just say it was 20 minutes and you said three rotations. Okay. What if the one group is here and then the next group you have to walk 20 yards away and then the next group you have to walk 20 yards away? So some of the things that a lot of trainers haven't thought about and PMs haven't thought about is transition time, because is it the trainer that's moving from station to station or is it the kids? And so we always say it's better that no one's rushing, because you've always got the kids that'll poke around and trying to, blow a whistle and get them from one station to the next. That's why I say if you break it up into 20-minute chunks, the content part that we're going to do is 15 minutes. Right. And then the transition time from one group to the next is about 5 minutes. The other big question is, well, what do we do with the other 3 groups or the other 2 groups? While you have one of the PCA stations, what can the other groups be doing? What would be some suggestions you might give for that?
If it's a team, just to do maybe some drills, have the coaches do some drills with the kids.
Skill building.
Yep, absolutely. So this is actually a workshop that's great because you get the coaches and the kids together when they come around to your station. We've also invited parents. If it's at like a play day or a kickoff or some type of an event that the team is having, you can have parents join right in with them as well. So you're getting the messaging out to the parents, coaches, and kids all at the same time. So that's something that I encourage also to do. The other thing is that you've got to make sure that you know specifically what age the kids are and if there's going to be multiple ages. So if you're there for 2 hours and you can get 3 groups going through every hour, that's 6 groups total that you can get in a 2-hour time period. You might have a league that says, well, we've got U8s, U10s, U12s, and U14s. So you've got to make sure that you're able to adjust and know which ages are coming when. Right. And what we found is most helpful is if you do the same activity for like the elementary kids, even if they're ranging in age from 6 to 10, you can still modify an activity to fit. Rather than trying to change your activity for every age level, we want them to really be consistent.
Right.
The other thing to remember is that even 13-year-olds like to do silly things. So even if you decide to do the same activity, you can make it a little bit more mature or push them one step further in it. We found that taking a simple activity and adding on to it in the 15-minute time period is better than trying to fit in 3 different activities in a short amount of time. And I don't know if you've gotten a chance to watch any of the videos that were done at TI, but I think I put them all on there on purpose because some of them are just really well done in terms of behavior management, in terms of explanation, in terms of organization, and other ones seem a little crazy, hectic, running around. And I wanted to put them all on there, not to point fingers out or say, you know, what happened, but at TI, we were able to debrief after each one and say what went well and what could we do better. And that was probably the most valuable learning experience.
Right.
So that's one of the things that I think this training is difficult to do if you're not on location, because it's better to see what you've done and try it and then say, well, what did you learn there? Because as you can tell, I mean, if you're going to have 6 groups going through in a 2-hour time period, I guarantee the last one's going to be the best because by then you're like, oh, I've got it.
Right.
So that's just the first part of it. Let me stop there. Do you guys have any questions, more questions about what you might want to make sure you communicate with the partner?
You know, it's fun. This all is exactly what I do with my youth track and field program. So we have workstations every night that are 20 minutes, and that does leave time for the. So I'm you know, now I'm more excited to do this because I thought I'm just going to use that format.
Yeah, it's great.
Adjust to the amount of kids and the amount of time we have, and have the different stations. We do the same thing where each of those groups are age groups. So you know, we do have our modifications ahead of time. So yeah, just using that same sort of organization and pre-planning again with the person from the organization. And so, yeah.
Okay. All right. So the other question that comes up too is, what activities do I do? What activities do I pick to do with each group? And that comes from a lot, again, communication with the partner. So you might talk to a youth track and field program. Let's say, Amy, you have your own program that you're doing, and I was the trainer that was calling. What would be some questions that I'd want to ask so that I could tailor my activities to fit the needs of the partner?
That you would, as the trainer, would want to ask me, the organizer. I think what we've already talked about, the age of the kids, how are they broken up, how many in each group, what does the setup look like, what equipment do we have available, how many
so
people?
What if it was, so that's all the logistical stuff. I didn't mean to interrupt you. That's all the logistical stuff. But
Sure.
What about what activities you would actually do? How would you pick what activities you would actually do?
I guess I maybe throw out some ideas to the person to see if anything connects with, or connects with the types of skills or the sort of problem solving that's needed for that sport, or the issues they're having with sportsmanship or teamwork and all that, what they want to focus on, and which activities cater to what they want to focus on with the sort of triple impact competitor.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. One of the first questions is, what are your goals? Why would you like to bring PCA in? And you're going to get a lot of information there. Some of it might be, we have a lot of trouble with the kids, their attitudes aren't great, or the sportsmanship aspect is really not great, or the parents are on their cases, or they might say, our kids are fantastic. We just want you to support what we're already doing and have you come in here and just, give us the language to use. One of the best benefits that we've heard of doing this workshop is that everyone now, every team, every little group in the whole league has the same terminology. They know the terms mistake ritual. They know fill the tank. They know honor the game. And a lot of coaches have been doing these things all along, but they just haven't had the terminology. So when you do a junior TIC day, now they can all, the team cheer can be honor the game. They can say, hey, buddy, we're going to flush it. And they all know what that means.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to put language into what they've already been doing.
Yeah.
So Lauren, did you have anything else that you think you'd want to ask the partner to figure it out?
No, I mean, one thing, maybe even to share with Amy is the hope would be the partnership managers kind of ask those questions already. So I would definitely, my plan is to connect with Scott, and I know he's going to connect with Homer, but then almost confirming with the partner, or with the potential, whoever their contact is, and just confirming kind of those same things to make sure that we're all three, I guess, on the same page, because you want to make sure that they're getting the outcome that they want to get. You're providing that outcome, and then everybody's kind of has like maybe 2 or 3 goals that they're trying to accomplish.
Right.
So I know that's kind of how we're trying to run things with North Texas.
Yeah. And that's great. And as I said, you're going to find a lot of information makes it very simple, rather than just having a blank slate and saying, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I definitely have my favorite activities that I do. But, if you call an organization and they say, well, emotional tank feeling is really great. We're really good at that, but we have trouble with disrespecting officials or disrespecting other people, then that, changes what you would do. Good. So secondly, it's actually fourth on my list. Fourthly, the setup of the workshops is really important. So we have, I think there's 13 to 15 activity cards that we have on PCA Trainer Share. Those are suggestions. So they're not necessarily ones that you have to do. Each one of them, and I can just share this with you guys so you can see it. And this is just a sample of one. But each card has, the introduction, and then it has the debrief, the suggested script. The cool thing this is the red light, green light activity for filling and draining tanks. But what I want you guys to understand is that you don't have to do the activities that are on the cards to the actual script. These are suggested activities for you. So if you have no idea what to do, we came up with 14 different activities for you. But what I liked about it when we did this at TI and we had 15 different trainers doing this, I don't think anyone did any of these activities exactly like it's written.
Right.
Which to me, I think it's great because you take your own background, your own knowledge, you think about the team that you're coaching, and it makes more sense to not do exactly what's on the card. You guys, I'm sure have seen the video of me doing this with the team.
I didn't see all of them, so I did not see this one.
Okay, this was actually me doing this with my youth lacrosse team.
Okay.
And so you have the activity, you have this, great idea that you want to do. Okay, and let me take out the headphones for a second so you can. So I just want you to watch just the beginning of this,
okay.
And I want you to just see what you observe here.
Girls, everybody take a knee or a seat. Take a knee or a seat.
Can you hear that?
What? Okay. I have a question for you. Who heard, eyes up here. Who heard somebody say something really positive about you? Nice. I love it. How do you guys feel when somebody says something good about you? Happy. You feel awesome. Well, guess what? Did you know that everybody inside of you guys have a gas tank inside of you? If your car of gas is really, really full, what's it going to be able to do? Run.
Okay, I'm just going to stop for a second. So that was like literally the first minute. So imagine that a group came around to me, and this was the first minute that they sat down, or that they came to me as the station. What's the first thing I had them do?
Answer questions.
Even before that, what's the first? Sit down.
Eyes on you.
Right. So I think one of the biggest parts of this workshop is the behavior management piece. And one of the things that the trainers at TI, I think, learned really, really quickly was when you just say, okay, everybody come in here, and then you start talking.
Right.
The kids aren't focused, they're not ready. And this is kind of like behavior management 101 from elementary school, but a lot of people just take it for granted because a lot of us have coached youth athletes. But the one thing you have to remember is they don't know you at all. So you don't have a rapport with them. And so if you say jump, they're not going to say how high. Some of them might, but a lot of them don't know you. So be over intentional about giving directions and be over intentional about your expectations for them in the next 15 minutes. And I would say that's one of the biggest lessons that the trainers learned out there, because of course the people that were pretending to be kids were adults, but it was great because everybody was being really tough on them, but they learned a lot of lessons about, wait, I can't talk over you. There's certain things you have to do just really, really clearly. Having everyone just sit down or take a knee and making sure everybody's quiet first before you give directions was huge. Because if some people aren't paying attention and then you go and start the activity, you're going to have 5 kids that are like, what, where are we going? What are we doing? I'm not sure what we're supposed to do next. So that was just the one thing that I wanted to show you.
Yeah.
Off the bat. So in terms of, again, if you just get a chance to watch some of the, just watch like 2 minutes, the first 2 minutes of a lot of those videos, and you're going to see very clearly which phrasing of questions was super simple and which phrasing made everybody really confused. So the key points that I wanted to bring up there was make sure when you're giving directions, it's super clear and very simple. The other key when you're giving directions is just give one direction at a time, maybe 2 if they're older. But some of the videos you'll notice some of the trainers are like, okay, first we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. And if you're talking about kids that are 7 and 8 years old, they're only going to remember the first thing that you said.
Right.
The other one, as a trainer, your job is to pump these kids up and fill their tanks while you're doing it. So some of the critiques that we gave some of the trainers was, you're not even smiling while you're doing this. They were like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about positive coaching and filling tanks. And it's amazing how your body language can send a message. So just be aware that this is supposed to be fun, so much fun for them. because we know if the kids aren't having fun, they're not learning. So it's more, they're going to remember what they have fun doing more than they're going to remember anything you're telling them. Right. So that's a key point too. So giving directions, being super clear, have them get below you. You can even get down on one knee, but make sure they're sitting in a still place to give directions. Even if they're 13 years old, you know, have them take a knee and get where they're not moving around and talking around. The other thing is fairness. Just be really careful about fairness. Any grade of elementary kids all the way through, if you have them do an activity that is a competition, like this line against this line, the first question they're going to ask is what? Anybody have an idea?
Are the lines equal?
Yeah. Are they equal? Well, he's on that time and he's, so think about how will you put them in two separate lines? Right. If you just say, okay, pick a line, you go here and you go there,
they grab
you're going to have, yeah. So anything you can do to be intentional about telling them, okay, you three go to this line, you three go to this line. It's only 15 minutes. You don't have to make friends with them.
Right.
So if you only have 15 minutes, tell them where to go. Yeah. If you give elementary kids the ability to choose what they do and where they go, they're going to mess it up. They're going to pick their friends. They're going to be upset that you didn't get picked. So just be, because it's such a quick, short amount of time, just be really intentional. I'm sorry. My dog is barking upstairs. Can you hear that? Is that distracting?
How do you usually divide? Because even like when I'm coaching, I've been like filling in, doing some PE for something, and I've noticed that's a struggle of figuring out what's the easiest way to do that. So what do you use and how do you divide up?
If it's a small group, I mean, you can do count off 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Some of the kids, if you do 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, or I'll have every other person put your hand on your head. Something that makes it like visual, because if you say 1, 2, 1, 2, they all lie and they say they're a 2 when they're a 1. But if you have them, you know, put every other person, put your hand on your head. Okay, everybody with your hand on your head, you're over there. Everybody without your hand on your head, you're over there. I think telling them what place to go in is probably best. You know, you can do some of the activities where, okay, everybody line up by your birthday. You know, if your birthday's in June, if your birthday's in July, that's for the older kids. They can get that. Or line up by shoe size. Everybody's like measuring up their feet next to each other. You don't want some kid to feel bad because they have huge feet or small feet, so you got to be careful. But something like that to force them to go somewhere. You could say, okay, everybody think about what day your birthday's on. And if it's an even number, go over here. And if it's an odd number, go over here. And if they're not even, say, oh, would you do me a big favor, buddy? Would you step up and go to this line because the lines aren't even? And then they're like, oh, yeah. And if you ever move a kid from one line to the next, move them to the front of the line so they feel special. That's another tip that's really helpful. Because everybody wants to be first in line. So if you're making somebody switch, make them the first one in line to make it special.
And I think a really quick one, at least I do in my track program, is that if you say get in a line and they have a feeling you're going to do 1, 2, 1, 2 or every other one, they'll figure that
shuffle.
Yeah. So, say tallest to shortest because it's the quickest thing to just measure themselves and get in a line.
Yep.
And then I just, you know, I touch them, you there, you there, you there, there, you know, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2 that way.
Yep.
That's the quickest way that I'm going to do it. And then you a lot of times get the ones that are big for their age and better athletes maybe. Splitting big kids up and sending them on different teams.
And I think too, you know, we all know as coaches, sometimes you want to separate friends because that can be really tough for them. But if you only have 15 minutes, they can be in a line with their friends. Because if they're intentionally going to be sitting next to the people that they're friends with. If you go every other person, now they're matched up with kids that are not their friends, and that can be even more awkward. So I think sometimes it's okay just to say, okay, I'm going to split the river. Boom, you're on this side, you're on that side. Or I need 4 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, you know, just tell them. It saves time when you don't give them choices. Yeah. And then, you know, you could even say, oh my gosh, you guys did that. You guys lined up faster than any group I've ever seen. Self-fulfilling prophecy is great. Even if they're the slowest group you've had all day, tell them how great they are. Tell them how, wow, that was fast. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. And I do that all the time. I tell them like, wow, your group is really paying attention. This is awesome. You know, just tell them things that they're doing, even if they're not, and they're going to do it. Blow smoke a little bit. It helps. The other thing is to make sure that they know, a lot of kids too, it's all about fairness. Are you keeping score? If you're going to do any competitive game, make sure that I would shy away from games where you're keeping score, because then it gets to the competition where you're actually win at all costs again. And again, in 15 minutes, you're not trying to do an activity that's win at all cost, because they'll be like, well, you said she gets 1 point and we actually, you know, you don't want this PCA portion to turn into a he said, she said, I thought I was first. Why didn't I get a point? You know, so that's why most of the activities we have are not score based. It's not like a, you know, besides rock, paper, scissors, but that's a little bit more obvious. That's not really based on skill. So that's my warning, is that if you're going to do something competitive, like a foul shot contest, if you're in basketball, like who can do this many layups in 1 minute, and we're going to work on filling emotional tanks during that time. Are you rewarding them for filling emotional tanks, or rewarding them for how many layups they do?
Yeah.
And if it's a true PCA portion, you're going to be praising them for filling tanks, not even worrying about how many layups they do.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that. The other, is there any questions on that one? So those are just kind of like behavioral things. Set them up clearly, tell them clearly what they're doing, and tell them what the goal is of the activity right off the bat. And then when the activity's over, there should always be a little 2-minute debrief about what you've done. So what did you learn? What did you see? And what can you bring back to your team? Because we want this to be something that's built into their team now. So if you're doing a mistake ritual activity with a flush, and you're having them choose whatever mistake ritual they want, and then at the end you say, okay guys, do we want to decide as a team what we want to use as our mistake ritual? And you know, they might say yeah, or if it's older kids, you might say, do you have your own? Do you guys want to all pick your own mistake ritual? But that's kind of a good debrief at the end. When we were doing this out at TI, some people ran out of time and they were like, okay, next group. And the most important part is that debrief. So make sure you bank into time to do that as well.
Okay.
Questions on that one? Okay. The next part is the actual activities themselves. And this is where these workshops are really fun. We've been talking about trainer matching for these workshops. So for example, if Lauren's going to do a junior TIC at a basketball workshop, it'd be nice if Lauren actually knew basketball. So sometimes you can work in skills and drills that the coaches have been working on. And then within that, work in a PCA principle. So the only takeaways for the junior TIC activities are either the 3 major principles or 3 tools. There should not be any more than that. Maybe one of them might be 1 tool and 1 principle. If you're doing, you know, if you're talking about mastery, if the kids are having trouble being motivated and motivating each other, you're going to be talking about filling tanks. You're going to be talking about effort. You're going to be talking about mistake ritual. The takeaway is the mistake ritual or the 5-to-1 ratio. You know, don't try to put terms on the kids because they're not going to remember them. So just keep it super simple as to what the takeaways are. For the coaches that are watching, you can be kind of filling them in. Like, what did you notice? Look at this kid. Look how excited they are about this. You can sort of be coaching the coaches at the same time. But it's really up to you as the trainer to decide if you want to make it sport-based or just activity-based. Obviously, red light, green light, you can play that in any sport. If you're doing it at a soccer practice, have them dribble a soccer ball. If you're doing a basketball practice, they can do red light, green light, dribbling a basketball. But just make sure that you are rewarding the effort, not the outcome. So if that's what you're trying to show them is rewarding effort and filling tanks, you are high-fiving kids left and right. You're having them high-five each other because you're going to walk away, and we want them at the next practice and the next practice and the next practice to be able to use some of the things that we're teaching them. The other thing too, some of the best ones, I think the best takeaways are the mistake ritual is a big one. That's simple, easy. Coaches can remember that. The buddy system, and any activity that you do as a junior TIC activity, put them with a buddy. And just during the next 15 minutes, the person next to you is going to be your buddy. And you can match them. I would never let them pick their buddy for this. I would match them up like you two, you two, you two, you two. And then the kids that don't want to be with that buddy say, you know, I know this person might not be your best friend, but I really appreciate you helping me out. You know, pump them up to make them sound like it is so cool that they're willing to work with that person. Have them make up a little handshake. It takes 1 minute to have somebody make up a handshake with a partner. But right again, it's fun. It's something they did. It bonded them together. It just connected them because they made up some silly handshake that they did. And then have them share their little handshakes. It takes a little bit of extra time, but if you're going to ask them to be a buddy with someone, even in a short amount of time, it's better to have them have some kind of a connection with them. So then as they're doing the activity, the drill, the whatever it is, your job, guys, is going to be to watch and see what your buddy's doing really well. And tell them, call it out. I want to hear you guys call it out. You know, nice dribbling, way to go, good speed. And so and then elicit the coach's help. Hey, coaches, can you help me when you notice the kids, you know, filling the tank of their buddies? Call it out. So I just want you to realize that there's other people around that can help you reinforce these things. It's not just you being the teacher. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And then again, winner's circle is a great one to debrief at the end of an activity. Do a winner's circle. Tell the coaches, this is called a winner's circle. And, you know, some people call them shout outs, some people, whatever it is. But hey, guys, I put you with a buddy for this activity. So what I want to do is take a minute. I would like every single person to turn to your buddy and tell them something great that they did today in this activity that we just did. Now, if you have 20 kids and you ask them all to say it out loud, you're obviously not going to have time to do that. So just turn to a partner and tell them something great they did, and then do your little handshake, and then it's over. So just that activity alone, whatever it was that you did, you just did a junior TIC activity. You've worked in e-tanks, you've worked in buddy system, you've worked in winner circle, you've worked in rewarding effort. Maybe you put in the flush, because you know your buddy's gonna make a mistake. You gotta make sure you tell them to flush it. So there's like 5 things that you just taught them in a really short amount of time, doing one simple dribbling activity, or you know, whatever it is. So that's kind of the framework that we're talking about. Take one activity that's simple and pull in PCA tools around that one activity, rather than saying, okay, first we're going to dribble the ball, then we're going to shoot the ball, then we're going to do passing, then we're going to, you know, that's just, it's too much. It's too much to try to do. And again, if you watch some of the videos, some of the trainers learn that when they try to shift activities. And again, some of them, I wish I had a door sometimes in my office. I could just open the door and let it out. Some of the best activities that I think are done at junior TIC have nothing to do with the sport. So Carrie Zaranandia did one of them that I did record for you too, and she just did monkey in the mirror. And the one person had to, you know, move around and act out something, and the other person had to mirror what they were doing. So it's an activity that doesn't really require skills, and the kids can be doing it, and you could be still pumping them up as if it were the best shooting drill you've ever done. But it takes the kids, because sometimes when you do sport-specific activities with skills, the best kids rise to the top again. And that can be discouraging, and we don't want this to be discouraging for any of them. So that's why I like rock, paper, scissors. When I did it on the video, it was my daughter's team, and I was cracking up because the 2 finalists in I call it rock, paper, scissors hype squad. That's what we call it on our team. But the 2 kids that actually ended up in the finals are the worst players. I mean, they just are so down on themselves because they can't even catch a ball. And here they were the ones that were the winners of the rock, paper, scissors, and everybody was cheering for and going crazy. And that simple little activity alone just made their day. They were so different the whole rest of practice because they were the rock, paper, scissors hype squad champions. You know, so even though it's easy for us to rely on our sport, and the coaches will probably say, oh yeah, I want you to work into a basketball drill. You might want to push back, especially with the younger kids, and say, I'd rather just do an activity that isn't specific to basketball or swimming or whatever. Does that make sense? Questions on that?
Yep, no, it's good.
Okay. After you guys have gone through the cards or gone through the videos, do you have any favorite activities that you saw that you thought, wow, I could do that. That would be really great to do with a group?
Well, I've done we do the tic-tac-toe with at the agility station. That's always a crowd pleaser and favorite, and it's and it's something you can adjust to the different ages. Like the little kids, they just have to go and put one down, whereas the older kids have the choice of either picking up a move, someone else's, and moving it, or putting a new one down. And so just they have more options and complications and to make it
good. So how do you set it up? What do you use for the tic-tac-toe piece?
Hoops. So I have a bunch of activities we do with hula hoops at agility that involve teamwork and agility. So yeah, we put 9 hula hoops down and have bean bags for the 2 different teams, and they do relays. And yeah, so the little kids, you know, the person where it's their turn, they just have to drop one in a place, whereas older kids can either drop one, a new move, or they can pick up someone else's and move it somewhere else. And that's just always one of the favorite things they do.
Yeah, that's great. So what PCA principles or tools would you work into that?
Well, it's definitely what we find is, and what we talk to them about is that when the team is too focused on winning and they start being negative towards their person, then the person has a harder time making the decision of where to put it because they're so focused on the pressure from the crowd behind them and what they're yelling. Whereas if there's a lot of cheering and positive stuff and not that fear of what if I make the wrong move, they can focus more on what they're doing. So you'll see the kids, if it gets a little negative, which happens with them, you know, these kids are so stressed out and where to put it, and they actually take a much longer time to put the move down versus the kids that can focus because they're not worried about disappointing everyone because it's more positive.
So you don't tell them from the very beginning to, cheer them on or not cheer them on. You just have them do it and then see what happens.
Always say cheer on your team, cheer on your teammates. But of course, when you always get those kids that are really competitive and start yelling like, "Why'd you put it there?" and this and that. Right. And then, so yeah, we'll have a discussion with them after that game. Well, I heard you started. You were, were you supporting your teammate there by yelling at them? Because what that does is it puts more pressure on them, and they can't really focus on their move because they're so worried about impressing you.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. And I like that too, because as you said, you can make it simpler for the younger kids and more complicated for the older kids. Even I think one of the trainers did where they had to do 3 push-ups first or 5 jumping jacks first before they went. And then, you get some training in there as well, which is good. Mm-hmm. All right, Lauren, did you have any favorites?
Oh, go ahead. Well, also about playing by the rules, because you'll always find in that game that they get super competitive and kids start leaving before the other kid came back.
Oh, right.
And so, okay, the other team won this game. We're going to tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
We have rules here, and I saw you go way before your guy came and touched you, and that's breaking the rules. So the other team wins. They played by the rules.
Oh, I like it. That's great.
Sure. No, I mean, in typical PCA fashion, I tend to do, what we usually do in our workshop. So I do the rock, paper, scissors competition. I love that one. I even use that for my own teams. And then red light, green light. Those are kind of my go-to, but I'll be honest, I haven't even looked through all of them yet. I've kind of I've got about halfway through the list, so I'm excited to go see kind of some of the other ones that have been done.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we talked about, we were laughing about, is PCA going to reimburse us for hula hoops? Because at the end, there were so many really good hula hoop activities. And we were just talking about how, gosh, if every trainer doing a junior TIC had just a pack of 18 hula hoops, it would make life really easy. But there are so many good things you can do with hula hoops. You can, make them tic-tac-toe boards or have them hold hands and try to get it through their bodies, or the one that Freeman did at a TI where I'd never seen before. We had 2 go in 2 different directions. I never knew that 2 hula hoops could cross on a person and actually make it through themselves. I mean, that was super cool, but I didn't think about doing that.
There's another one where the kids, you maybe get 5 in a group, or it depends how big the kids are. I have some little ones, but they have 3 hula hoops, and they all start standing inside the group of 3 hula hoops, and they have to basically get a certain amount, say 20 yards down, by they can only step in the hula hoop, and all 3 of them have to get into the next hula hoop, and then the person behind has to pick it up and put it over them and then to the next spot, and it's a huge teamwork one. But one thing we do that really I think works on the more of the effort and growth mind and rewarding the kids for improvement versus performance is we do a balance game. We have these little balance pods, but you could just do them standing on 1 foot and balancing. But so you have buddies, and they would time each other, whether it's counting or they have stopwatches. So they time the buddy on how long they can stand on 1 foot, maybe with their eyes closed, and keep track of that time. And then the other buddy goes, and then they get to do it again. And whoever had the big improvement from the first time to the second one gets the prize or the cheer. So it's all about which kid improved between the first and the second time the most, rather than the kid who balanced the longest.
I like that. Hold on for 1 second. I'm gonna let my dog out.
So what exactly was it that you coached?
So I have a youth track and field program with 120 kids. Wow. It's actually 2 separate programs going on at the track at the same time. So about 100 little kids, 5 through 12, and then the 30 kids are the middle school with different coaches. But so we just have stations, and they're divided in age groups, and they move around the track to different stations. But we do it so they all become decathletes. So they're not allowed to come and say I'm a sprinter or a jumper. They all know how to pull out and throw the discus and triple jump and run all the events in the right format by the end of the program.
That's awesome. It's very smart.
Yeah, it is. It's great. It's great. My other question was going to be about prizes. Actually, I put that down. With the activities, we talk a lot in PCA about the token rewards rather than the actual prizes. Some of the trainers said, well, I would bring candy, and I would give them candy if they won this. What's the problem with doing that?
Allergies.
True. Everybody's
always afraid of.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we don't have parent permission. Second of all, there could be allergies. But as soon as you introduce a reward like that that's actually given to them, what comes up? What's the problem?
The competition and
Yeah.
win.
It turns into win at all costs because the kids don't care what they're doing. They just want a piece of candy. And so just be really careful. The rewards that are better are, you know, we've even done it. I'm sure you guys have done it with your teams too, where the person that wins gets to tell the rest of the team what they have to do. You know, if it's like a jumping jack or a push up, or they have to sing, or, you know, I do victory laps a lot. You know, the team that won gets to do a victory lap. And it's just fun. It's goofy. They like it. Or, you know, everybody gives them like a round of applause, or, you know, the high five line, or whatever it is. It's definitely easier to get them motivated with candy, but we would really highly suggest that you don't. Unless it's a high school where you have a TIC workshop and you have 95 athletes and they're not paying attention, feel free to throw Starburst at them, because that works beautifully. But other than that, for the little guys, stick with the rewards that are not actual physical rewards. All right, so the last part, I just wanted to find out from you. One of the things that I'm going to follow up with this call is just a questionnaire. And I mean, just because you're going through this and you're trained in this doesn't mean you necessarily want to do it. So I just want to make sure that you understand that we are still going to kind of trainer match for these. And I want to make sure that you guys know what you're getting yourself into, for lack of a better phrase. If there's ever a junior TIC workshop that's on EMS and you want to apply to do it, please feel free to talk to your own partner manager before you decide to do it. Because we're asking the PMs to put a lot of notes in the trainer notes. And most of the time we've actually asked the PMs and PSMs to call the, if there's, you know, whatever the trainer is that's trained in their region, call them first before they schedule it, because it is so specific. And if they want to schedule one in Denver and Amy, you're the only one that's trained and you can't do it that day, then we have to, you know, train somebody quickly or fly somebody else in, which isn't a great situation. So we are asking the PMs and PSMs to be a little bit more careful about scheduling these. And like Brandon Whiting is my PM, and he's done a great job already. He talked to me yesterday. He said, what dates in October are you available to go to this school and do these junior TIC activities? So, you know, hopefully they're all on the ball, but, you know, we're not all perfect, and sometimes it happens the opposite way. But for Sonia's purposes and scheduling, she's checking with trainers before you even apply for it. So just be aware that you're allowed to call and say, hey, what is this all about? What sport is it, before I, you know, ask to do it.
Okay.
Yep. And again, if you have any other questions, or if you don't feel like, you know, this isn't really for me, or if it's like for boys Little League baseball and you're like, yeah, that's just not my jive, like I just don't really feel comfortable around it, there's no hard feelings at all. Just say, you know what, no, that's not the population of kids that I feel comfortable in front of. We want you to be as honest as possible because we want it to be successful.
Right.
So we're trying to get a lot of people trained to do this, but it's funny, there's people I reached out to and they're like, yeah, no, this isn't for me. I don't want to do this. So there's a lot of people that just aren't comfortable with that age kids. And I'd much rather people be honest than to get themselves into a situation where they think, oh, it's little kids, it's easy. I always laugh. I always say anybody that's ever went from coaching high school to like elementary school kids know that it's definitely not easier.
Yeah.
Easy is not the word that comes to mind.
Different.
Yeah. So do you guys have any more questions for me about this? I know we kind of went through it fast, but any other questions about resources or, actually I didn't mention that, but this is probably obvious. If you don't own 20 hula hoops or, you know, whatever it is, ask the partner, because a lot of times they can come up with these things, especially if it's at a school. Or you could say, you know, do you have soccer balls? Do you have hula hoops? Don't go out and purchase anything until you've checked with the partner first.
Right.
And before you purchase, please check with Sonia, because some of the, you know, things she's going to say, yeah, no. But if it's like, can I go to the dollar store and buy 5 hula hoops? That would probably be fine, because that would be $5. But if you say, I need to go out and get 6 soccer goals at Dick's, you know, that would probably be a no.
Yeah.
So just check with the partners first. They probably have a lot cooler stuff than we do. Other good props to have around are like pool noodles. They're super cheap, and you can use those as goals. You can use them. I saw somebody just take 2 like camping stakes, stick them in the bottom of pool noodles, and they were soccer goals. And I mean, what a great, easy thing to put on a field just to have. I mean, it wasn't a PCA workshop, but I was like, oh, I want to use that. That's great. They can also be baskets. You know, hold a pool noodle and it's a basket, and you can pretend you're shooting into a basket. Have the kids use their arms for baskets. Just being creative and flexible, I think, is the key with this workshop, and just keeping the lines of communication open. And I'm also always here as a resource. Joe Tarasi has some awesome ideas. Feel free just to tap into any resources you can find. As we do some more of these, we're going to try to get them videotaped and put them on the trainer blog. So if you're doing one of these, we would love it if you could have somebody videotape One of the coaches, maybe just hand your phone to them and say, could you just videotape it? It's only 15 minutes. But we would love to get a library of these more than the trainers doing them for trainers. We'd like to have more like live trainers doing them for actual kids. So that's all I have. If you guys don't have any more questions for me, or if you do, let me know.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Do you feel, Lauren, because I know you're scheduled to do one of these soon, do you feel better about it? Or
I talked to him, and apparently the thing for Saturday, he hasn't even heard back, but I have one for next Wednesday as well. So we had 2 back to back. But no, I'm excited because one thing I guess I didn't tell you as well was this year I'm actually working out of the school as well. I'm kind of helping out the program that I coach for to kind of help get an actual program. So I'm actually doing like about an hour of PE every day, basically over my lunch break. But it's 15 minutes back to back from 4 grade levels or K through 8th. So you just helped me get my curriculum for all next week. And then the night I can use it as practice for the workshop. And so I'll just basically do this and call it like character week or sportsmanship week. Yeah. And instead of doing, specific skills, but even still with that, work some in. So I'm excited.
And a lot of the PMs have said that they want to work this into the PE program. That's been kind of an untapped area because most of the stuff that we do is for teams. So actually the one that Brandon was talking to me about yesterday was, it was a phys ed class in an elementary school. And he said, could we do we're actually going to do 2 workshops back to back because it's 4 hours. And it's, each class is going to be coming through in 20-minute chunks. So that is a whole market that we haven't been able to reach before, going into schools.
Yeah,
and
if you want to do some test runs on it or something like that, I mean, I have the test group. So
that's great. No, that's perfect.
Good.
Yeah, if you'd like to offer that. And again, videotape anything you're doing, that's super, super helpful.
Sure, absolutely.
All right.
Will do.
Well, thanks so much, guys. I'll send you the recording to this as well. You'll be copied on it. You guys will be famous.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.